Welcome to our Halloween episode for our special week-long look at ghosts. And this spot has been reserved because, while many of the others referenced Halloween in one way or another, Ghostwatch was actually originally broadcast on Halloween. I'm going to be getting less into the background of the work than I will often do for two reasons. First, because about 8 years ago, the definitive behind-the-scenes work, Ghostwatch Behind the Curtain, was released after 5 years of work and is going to blow anything that I have to say out of the water. And second, and far more importantly, I can't find a copy of the damn thing. Well, not anywhere I feel safe giving my credit card information. So if you are really that keen to know, there's oodles of info out there, but you're going to have to work for it. The two other films that I've covered this month were The Blair Witch Project and the original The Day the Earth Stood Still. The former was groundbreaking in its use not only with making it appear you were watching an event that had actually happened, but also in how to play the metagame and try to convince people in the real world of that same fact. The latter film notably tried to add to its verisimilitude by having news broadcasters known to the public reporting on both the arrival of a flying saucer and of a spaceman at large. In other words, both were, in different ways, trying to get you more invested by trying to make it feel more real. There's a profound difference, after all, between suspension of disbelief and the actual dread of feeling the fantastical incorporated into what our experience tells us is reality. The most famous example of this kind of thing is Orson Welles' War of the Worlds broadcast, that didn't try to fool anyone, despite protests to the contrary, and reports that the outraged and confused were actually overblown and sensationalized, and that the terror in many cases was not because of aliens, but rather the tension in the wake of the Munich crisis that left Western nations fearful of a German invasion. Nevertheless, that work became historic because of how it worked to maintain a sense that the horrific was existing within reality by its means of presentation, and the broadcast has become the example that all others are compared to. Prank TV shows are not unheard of, such as the 1958 Spaghetti Tree hoax, which purported to show a family in Switzerland harvesting spaghetti noodles, apparently a rather obscure dish in the UK at this time. It was an April Fool's Day gag, as was Alternative 3 in 1977, but the latter ran into one small problem. There was a delay, so their April Fool's broadcast wound up in the summer. This was more than a mere prank about pasta, though, but was an elaborate conspiracy theory about a joint East and West plot to set up settlements on Mars to survive catastrophic climate change caused by pollution. The broadcast ends with footage of a covert Martian landing and some unknown thing being shown to move under the Martian soil.
My God, what is that? Something moving. Something moved there.
As it was shot in a documentary style and used a large amount of stock footage, it too convinced some people that this was real. As we'll see, Ghostwatch was even more ambitious. Having devoted an entire week to ghosts, let me reiterate, I do not believe in ghosts. I also do not believe in sharks. But there's a profound difference there. I don't believe in sharks because it is established fact that they exist. Belief is therefore not necessary. I do not believe in ghosts because they are not established fact, and I have not seen anything to convince me of their existence. The purpose of this video is not to convince you of that. I don't know that anyone watching this would believe in ghosts, but Penn Jillette had a maxim that the skeptical community is kind of shared. It's, everybody's got a gree-gree, meaning everybody probably has one thing that they accept even though it cannot be rationally proven or even stands in contradiction to existing evidence. Some take that statement as a sign that they need to work harder at skepticism, or others take it as a reason to be more understanding. I'm more of the latter, because I try not to be a dick about your gree-gree, because I don't like people being dicks to me about my gree-gree. But at the same time, this program is presenting its topic in a way that challenges people who do not believe, not asking for suspension of disbelief, but couching in a realistic format the idea that those who do not accept this are closed-minded relics who are ignoring the reality that ghosts are here. I can't just let that slide. So in some cases, I have to be a dick.
The program you're about to watch is a unique live investigation of the supernatural.
How Queen Elizabeth is still alive. Oops, that aged well, didn't it? This guy isn't some actor. Michael Parkinson was a well-known news presenter. He was, in this context, basically a Brian Williams, someone you could probably trust, assuming that a Chinook helicopter isn't involved. What you saw is the start of the broadcast. There is no disclaimer. This is moving immediately forward as if this was just any other news special. The special is an investigation into the supposedly supernatural activity around this house for the past 10 months. For our story, let's watch the video of two girls in their bedroom sleeping. Not to worry, this time it's legal. After heading off to the bathroom, there's the sound of banging and stuff being thrown at them, and then the lamp blows. Fairly mundane for ghosts. It's definitely a noob-class specter here. After their establishing montage, our host is back to tell us that their hope tonight is to provide definitive proof that ghosts exist, which is what Dr. Lynn Pascoe is here to try to help them with. There is a serious effort here to find answers.
Yeah, I'm fine. I've taken the Valium, man.
Which naturally demands the presence of Dave Lister. After he's done setting the tone, we cut over to the call center for anyone that wants to call in to share their own ghost tales and other things related to this live search for poltergeists. That's Mike Smith, another familiar BBC face for the audience, and that phone number was the standard BBC one that you would use for call-ins like this. So everything is again trying to play into your expectations for an evening investigative special. To be fair, the number was set up to play a recording telling any callers that the show was fiction, but the problem was that calls were coming in so fast that most people couldn't get through. Yes, that won't make anyone nervous at all, will it? Mike's wife, Sarah Green, also a familiar face to the audience, is going to be spending the night inside this allegedly haunted house.
Confrontations, of course, with the supernatural can be devastatingly real.
That is the most English newsreader thing he could possibly have said. It's a wonder he didn't add God Save the Queen on the end of it. So to interview the terrified family is none other than Craig Charles, of course, but in the fiction he's playing a Craig Charles who is a clownish, insensitive jackass. So that's a nice decision. The family, Pam Early and her two daughters, Suzanne and Kim, talk about the stuff being broken and the difficulty of their lives so that even Craig Charles has to kind of tone down the asshole for this part of it.
What can be done for people like Mrs. Early, who, according to the evidence on that film, I mean, clearly she's shattered?
Well, the first thing we can all do for a start is believe them.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Well, it's not always that easy, is it?
Yes, but you can see, it's obvious these people are desperate for help. It makes me so angry when you still get people out there denying that these things even happen.
This is where the format runs up against the fiction. This is an actor giving scripted lines about a work of fiction. And that is all fine for me. As I said at the start of the week, suspension of disbelief means that you accept what you otherwise wouldn't for a moment believe. Wookiees, vampires, 2020 being a really awesome year. Pretty much nothing is so fanciful and absurd that we can't be convinced to accept it by a work of fiction. But presenting it in this format changes things. I'm actually rather bothered by that people who claim they're being hassled by ghosts is being, by the answer, believe them, lumped into the same category as other people who are facing actual problems that are frequently not believed. And I feel this way specifically because of how this is presented. If this was an actual news program, I would write her off as a kook and be done with it. If it was an actual movie, that she is aware of a reality of this fictional world that we aren't. But as a piece of fiction that is disguised as a news program, what keeps popping into my head is fraud. All actors, if you want to be technical, are liars because their entire job is to say things that aren't true and to pretend to be people that they aren't. But by couching it in this particular way, about making the situation seem like it's real, what I have is someone that I can absolutely tell by looking at them is lying, in the context of a situation where they should be telling the truth, because it looks like an actual broadcast. That really makes me dislike her intensely. Look, can we get to someone scientific? That's all I want to know.
I'd like to introduce you to Alan Domescu. He is an electronics engineer.
Oh, good.
And a member of the Society for Psychical Research.
Oh, for fuck. Who's up next? A nuclear researcher with photos of the Loch Ness Monster?
Well, the paranormal covers a wide range of aspects, but tonight we're concentrating on what we call spontaneous cases.
What are they exactly?
Ones we haven't arranged with the ghost ahead of time. After he shows all the gear that they've set up in their truck to detect cold spots and stuff like that, we see that the camera being used for this also has an infrared setting. Just in case we want to see things from the point of view of the predator. Back in the studio, Pascoe says that they picked this particular house because of all the places in the UK it had the most tangible evidence for there being a haunting. But she does say that even there, things are intermittent. There may be nothing that happens at all tonight. It could be the Al Capone's vault of ghost hunting. But while apple bobbing is going on at the house, there is a thumping sound, and... Now we'll find out who the ghost really is, gang. After that fun's over, we get down to the history of the haunting. That Suzanne had an argument with her mom about staying up past her bedtime, and that night when she fell asleep in front of the TV, her daughter still recalls her tucking the girls in. It was dismissed as a dream until Pam experienced something 4 days later, just like it. The pounding sound was originally blamed on the heating systems malfunctioning. That's why Kim thought that her mom was saying the name of the ghost was Pipes, which of course is impossible because Pipes is the name of a robot. Besides screwing with the central heating, Pipes apparently has been writing in Suzanne's book with stuff like blood, blood, bloody in it, and a graphic drawing including a man with his junk hanging out. It's kind of his theme. Suzanne says it was a ghost that did that.
I don't even write like that.
So I said to who was it then? Who was it?
Yeah. Who or what?
Clearly, no teenager would ever write or draw anything awful like that ever, especially penises. To screw with the audience, and I'll admit it's pretty clever, they had one person call in about seeing some figure by the curtains, and then a report and more say that they saw it. So we go to the tape, and there is clearly someone there. But then they play it back in slow motion, and the figure isn't there. And it's dismissed as people just seeing things. This, of course, was played with in the footage. The figure was there when they showed it the first time, but not the second time. This puts the idea in the audience's head that they can't trust what they think they see. Although it's actually true if you realize they're deliberately being screwed with. Anyway, Kim explains that Pipes doesn't actually stay in the pipes, but rather stays in the closet under the stairs where Pam's ex-husband used to develop photos. Well, I say closet. This place is technically called a spandrel, although that term can be confusing because it's more commonly used to refer to the triangular shape that's found in archways. I don't suppose anybody has another term for that, something that no one could possibly mistake for anything else?
The glory holes, we used to call it when I was a kid.
Spandrel it is, then.